Stewardship at work. You have businesses, and in them you can have people who have a number of core values. But what sets us Christians apart from the rest of the people at work? The thing that separates us is that we should recognize God as the owner of our businesses and careers. For this, the most important and valuable thing we can learn today is the value of the principle of biblical stewardship. This simply means that God is the owner of everything, and He only gives us some of these things to manage on His behalf. When we look at Psalms 24 verse 1, the earth is the Lord's and everything in the world and all who live in it. So we can say a steward is someone who simply manages the property of another person. In the parable of the labourers in the vineyard, in Matthew 20 verse 1 to 16, it tells us that the steward calls and pays the labourers at the end of the workday, and not the actual vineyard owner himself. When it comes to our professional lives, we are the stewards and managers, and Jesus Christ is the owner. Jesus is the principal and we are His feudarises. Colossians chapter 3 verse 23 to 24 reads, "Whatsoever you do, do it heartily and as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that the Lord shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ." The fact is that God calls each and every one of us to make good use of the resources, and this can be things and it can even be people. He gives things to us and we need to reflect His characters in these means. Now I'm just going to share a few tips in how we can actually display stewardship at work. So the first tip is we have to keep it real. Like, we shouldn't force discussions about faith. Reflecting Jesus in our workplace, we can do simple things that you can do. Offer a listening ear to someone, or try to spend some time with colleagues over lunch. Often, it's the little things and a good relationship with your colleagues that can lead to the why questions, which makes them more curious about the way you are and your religious beliefs. So the second point I'd like to bring to you is practice your testimony. There is nothing worse than being asked your story and getting into a cold sweat because you don't know where to start. It's important to practice your testimony. Remind yourself about how to come to be a good Christian and what God has done for you in your life. You need to rehearse it and deliver your testimony in less than 2 minutes. People these days are not wanting to give you a very long conversation, so it's good to be able to summarize things like I'm doing now. And now, the last tip is you have to be willing to serve. No matter what your position is, you need to be willing to serve. Even God, our Master, He told us in the Bible that in order to lead, you must serve. And He is the perfect example of this. Jesus was humble when He came to the earth despite His position, and we can look at this as an example for how we should live our life. One thing we can do is offer to make the next round of hot drink, refill the printer paper, are just little things which we can do to make other people's lives easier. Putting all that aside, we can just smile, do simple things like even hold the door. Like, these things make such a big difference to other people. A lot of the time we think people are looking for the high qualified people, the people with the smartest things that they know and all those things, but ultimately what really matters is what's in your heart. People prefer people who are nice to them, and people who are kind can give them their time and even listen to them when they need help. We all are living in very difficult days, and smiling could really help each other, and a lot of the time it's the little things that we can do. Work is what we do, and stewardship is how we should do it. Stewardship refers to all our decision making, how we choose our time, talents, and our energies. It is where we draw the boundaries on our commitments. It is reflected in all our choices, from the mundane to the monumental. This is the whole life stewardship, and it requires a paradigm shift. Stewardship is not just about whether we diet or whether we manage our personal finances well, or how we even preserve fossil fuels. Yes, these are all important aspects of stewardship, but whole life stewardship is so much more important. It concerns every decision that a person makes, and it requires intentionality and effectiveness. Stewardship of God is both a resource and a mandate. We don't have the luxury of misappropriating God's resources. As Christians, we are called to be intentional and prudent when using all these things we hold dear. It is our duty to see the value of the things God has given us and to put them to work in the highest and best uses according to God's standards. The challenge faced while following Jesus can be looked into a different manner. You can say, I don't think my work has kept me from following Jesus. If anything, it gives me focus, purpose, and insight into following Him, what it really means. Work isn't a distraction from becoming who I become. It's a vehicle for it. As followers of Jesus, we have one life to answer to the singular call to know, love, and serve God. There is only Jesus at the center of any and everything we do. When we live through and for in our churches, our homes, and even our work,